Alrighty, so the next team we're going to talk about in the season preview is the Colorado Rapids, who last season did the unthinkable by finishing at the top spot in the Western Conference. But, as I mentioned in the moving forward series about the Rapids, it was kind of bittersweet the fact that they did finish first for the first time in their franchise history, but once again weren't able to win a playoff game and go deep into the playoffs. But overall, they finished with a 17 and 10 and 7 record. They finished with 61 points. They scored 51 goals, allowing 35 goals, and had a goal differential of plus 16. As I mentioned, they finished first in the Western Conference, but was eliminated by the Portland Timbers in the second round. Now, another thing that I've just realized I forgot to mention is where exactly the Rapids have finished in the last 5 seasons. I was supposed to put that on the board here, so I am just gonna quickly look at the standings right now for the last 5 seasons. I mean, obviously, we know last season they finished first in the Western Conference, but before that, I believe they finished fifth in the Western Conference back in 2020, and then of course in 2019 they finished ninth in the Western Conference. In 2018 they finished 11th in the Western Conference, and in 2017 they finished 10th in the Western Conference. But obviously, back in the days when the Rapids were a bottom feeder of MLS, this was prior to the Robin Fraser era. Remember when Anthony Hudson was running this team and how bad he basically run this team to the ground? Yeah, those were kind of the dark days of the Rapids, and it seems like these last 2 years, ever since they have Robin Fraser coming in, and also not give credit to Connor Casey, who took over the job on an interim basis and really kind of set the course of what the Rapids are nowadays, which is a team that is competing near the top spot of the Western Conference. But as I said, their playoff run that they hoped that they could go deep last season didn't really happen, as they were eliminated in the first playoff game that they played against the Portland Timbers in the second round. Now, the player that is leaving this team, and there are a couple of key players on this team that is leaving this team, and one of those key players is Calvin Acosta, going to LAFC as part of that blockbuster move that we saw just a couple of days ago. I mean, there is still question about this move, with the way that I know I've talked about how the controversy surrounding this move is the fact that Calvin Acosta was not happy, the fact that he's going to be staying within the league. He rather wants to be leaving the Rapids and go to Europe, but now he's basically stuck in MLS. Though going to LAFC, like I said, is not really a bad club to join, and that it just also feel like this is a gentleman's agreement between the Rapids and LAFC, that LAFC gave them Marv Anthony K, and now the Colorado Rapids want to agree to this gentleman agreement by getting a like for like switch by giving them Calvin Acosta from their club. Then you got John Bocci, who's going to be going to FC Cincinnati, followed by Courtney Ford, longtime Colorado Rapids player, a player that it's so unfortunate how his Rapids career has been battling with so many injury, and now he's got a second chance where it's also getting to a time where he hasn't been able to even crack the starting 11 or even on the bench because of how low he is in the depth chart, but he gets another chance to do so as he's going to be going to Sporting KC. Then their big off-season sale that they made, and even though they didn't make much money out of this one, or if any, because they loaned Cole Bassett to Feyenoord this off-season, they could potentially get some big money, especially with the way that if Cole Bassett does well with Feyenoord and Feyenoord decide to purchase him outright, then the Rapids is definitely get a good sum of money out of that. Then they got Nicholas Mosqueda, who they denied his contract this year as part of the end of the season roster move, and then Jonas Namley, they decided to not purchase him outright, and that he is going to be going to Kakeda. And I think this is the right decision, knowing the fact that Namley, his time with the Rapids was definitely underwhelming, and it's kind of such a disappointment that there was a lot of talk of the fact that he is going to be the missing puzzle in terms of the big issue that the Rapids has had without a key number 10 player, and they thought Namley was going to be the guy, and no, he turns out he was not the guy. Though it doesn't help the fact that he did suffer some injury issue, and that when he came back from injury this season and late this season. He just was not the same player that they kind of thought he was when he came in this Rapids team. I mean, to be fair, when he first arrived to this Rapids team, he had that potential of being that number 10 playmaker that they hoped that they finally got, but overall, it didn't really quite work out, and now he's not going to be returning to this team. Now, the players that is bought in for the Rapids, well, they got Max Alvarez, which is one of the bigger signings that they made in the offseason from Flamengo, and that, I don't want to say that he is going to be that guy that is going to be that number 10 player that the Rapids are desperately looking for, because remember, he's only 20 years old, and I think that's way too much pressure to put on a 20-year-old. And even though I know nowadays a lot of MLS team are really banking on getting these young players down in South America and hope to hit the ground immediately, I'm not going to say the same with Max Alvarez, especially the way that he's actually not signed as a DP player. Like, if the Rapids actually sign him as a DP player, then yeah, there's no doubt there's going to be that expectation that he needs to perform and hit the ground running. But because they did not sign him in a DP contract, but more like a U22 initiative, yeah, I think he's probably not going to be the guy that I would think that is going to immediately be that missing piece that the Rapids need in that number 10 spot. They also got Kakeda, who I mentioned the fact that it seems like the Rapids really like the name Abubakar, because now we have an Abubakar partnership with Kakeda and Lawless Abubakar potentially playing along each other in that center back partnership, as he of course come from the Columbus Crew. Then they got Brian Acosta from the reentry draft stage 2 from FC Dallas. Now on the Colorado Rapids page, it's labeled him as a designated player. Now I don't think that's exactly true, because I know he was a DP when he was with FC Dallas, which that is, you talk about some of the worst players that is named as a designated player. Brian Acosta is right up there. I mean, he was pretty bad in a way where he wasn't even getting a lot of minutes, and also not to mention he also suffered some injury issue. But yeah, I don't think the Rapids are going to make him as a DP, even though it's labeled on their website. And again, I know some people will say that this move by the Rapids isn't really that good. Well, I don't think so. I think, the Rapids, we know that this front office knows how to sign players within the league and know how to find these hidden gems. And we've seen before that, when FC Dallas decided to let go of Michael Barrios, and when they thought that Barrios was completely useless, he turns out to be the best player and the top goal scorer for this Rapids team last season. So who knows? Maybe Brian Acosta is going to be going to the Rapids, and turns out to be a player that maybe is definitely going to allow FC Dallas to regret of them letting him go on a free and basically like that. But in terms of the draft itself, they draft 3 guys in Roberto Molina, Anthony Merkanich, and Mohamed Omar in the draft, and these are the players that the Rapids have so far got. And I say so far because we still got about a month before the regular season begins. They could also still sign some more players, and this is also kind of the reason why it's a little bit tricky in terms of doing season preview even a month out of the season, because that there are still going to be some signings that is going to make. But in terms of the optimism for this team, they still have all 3 DP spot open, and as I said, I don't think Brian Acosta is going to be a DP, which means that they have all 3 DP spot open. And it seems like they're being very conservative right now in terms of spending that DP, which I understand, because that's what the Rapids wants to do. They don't just want to throw money and hope that things is going to work out. But at the same time, I have a feeling they might kind of almost force to do so. And especially, I guess the approach that they're taking is that let's see how this first half of the season is going to go, and if it goes terribly, then we'll start looking for some designated player in the summer transfer window. And also the summer transfer window, although it is in the middle of the season, that's also where the European transfer window is the most active, and a lot of players usually move around during the summer transfer window. So it seems like the Rapids are really looking into that, and they're trying to hope that maybe in the summer, when the market is definitely going to be more open and the deals are going to be much better than what we see in the winter transfer window, that's when they'll capitalize on those DP spot that they have. And of course, they have Robin Fraser as their head coach. Like, anytime when you have Robin Fraser as your head coach, you know you're gonna win. Like, I've said before that he is definitely the top 5 head coach in this league, and a guy that I believe he's gonna regularly compete for MLS Coach of the Year. And he also kind of is a miracle worker with the way that when you look at this team, it doesn't wow you a lot. But the reason why they are decent is because they're just so well coached, and a lot of that comes from Robin Fraser. So yeah, that's obviously got to be a huge optimism if you're a Rapids fan, and you know, this is also another chance for me to say that coaching really matters in this league. Like, I know you can have a team with all the quality and expects to do well, but at the end of the day, coaching is important because it keeps the chemistry of your team and keep the team in terms of in check of what their ultimate goal, and also in some cases maybe even control each players in terms of the egos, because you know, we've seen before where each player has different attitude and ego, and as a head coach it's important for you to try to sort that out. And I think Robin Fraser, the way that he has done a very good job in terms of not really trying to go too hard and just make sure everybody knows their job, and also build the chemistry with each players, that they when they do play on the soccer pitch and play during games, they have good chemistry, and is a well run team that they of course would do well and get 3 points every single game. Now, some of the things that could be concerning and some worry that Rapids fan might have. Well, they definitely did lose some good talent, especially in the midfield. I mean, losing Kellen Acosta, I think that is going to be a huge blow to their team. I mean, yes, they have Mark Anthony Kay, and they hope that Mark Anthony Kay is going to be like the Mark Anthony Kay that we saw from LAFC. And even when he arrived with the team, I thought he did well with the Rapids, but they're really banking on the fact that he's going to be the real deal, because I think coming into the season they did not expect the fact that when they got Mark Anthony Kay from LAFC that they had to also do a bit of a gentleman agreement and decide to sell Kellen Acosta to LAFC. But we'll see you know, whether or not of course will turn out, because if it doesn't turn out, then losing Kellen Acosta to LAFC, yeah, they might start to regret that they decided to make that move. And then not to mention, you know, Cole Bassett. I know last season he was probably the most cursed player on that team, but he is still a guy that has a very good work rate, and he can definitely be a guy that can still create the chances even if he's not scoring them. So yeah, that's going to be a bit of a loss that they're going to suffer for this upcoming season. And then of course, the concern about this team is the fact that can they find a top 5 DP level of a playmaker in the number 10 position, and also talk about the other point, can they find a DP number 9 that can of course score the goals. I mean, that's kind of the thing that the Rapids fans want to see how this front office is going to do. Like, so far this front office has done very well in terms of making interleague signing, but in terms of making DP signing, that is the big issue with this team. This front office has not been able to do a good job in terms of finding good quality DP. And you know, at the end of the day, it's great that you can of course hit on some of these TAM signings within the league, but at the end of the day, you need to have a good quality DP player if you want to get into the next level. And you know, I think Rapids fan, rightfully so, has to be a little bit concerned of whether or not if this front office is going to deliver that DP playmaker or that number 9 that can of course get this Rapids team to the next level. But with that being said, now moving to MVP, and honestly, I really don't know who's going to be the MVP of this team, because as I said, with the way that this team has that motive of the fact that this team is the star and that there's really no true guy that I can say is the MVP. For once, I'm going to say not associate. I mean, it's hard. Again, I don't know who exactly is going to be that, and especially if there is going to be a case where they're going to bring that top 5 DP level of a playmaker or a goal scorer, maybe he's going to be the MVP. But until then, I don't know who that is going to be. They're going to have to wait until they make that move during the summer transfer window. And also, I just realized the board kind of fogged out a little bit, which usually when that happens, that's not really good, because this camera usually doesn't focus again. So yeah, I do apologize if it does kind of get a little bit blurry for the rest of the video. Comeback player, again, I just I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like, there's really not a lot of player on this team that I would say that needs to have a comeback year. Like, if Jonas Namley was still on this team, I would definitely say that he's going to be the comeback player because I do think that he does still have a chance to be a decent player. I think last year the reason why he didn't really contribute a lot is coming back from a torn ACL injury. And that's going to be always very tough to try to hit the ground running. So yeah, if he was still on this team, I would have said that he would be the comeback player. But other than that, again, I just don't know. Like there really isn't any player that maybe had a rough season or had a bit of a setback that needs to have like a comeback to deserve to be as a comeback player. And then finally, let's talk about the expectation of this Rapids team. Well, obviously the expectation for this team, I've mentioned it a lot of time throughout this video, and that of course is get a quality DP kind of player. And again, I've already talked a lot about it, so I'm not going to mention it again. But obviously the other expectation is not only making the playoffs, but also win a playoff game. Like this team clearly has now the experience to win a playoff game, especially. They must now learn the lesson twice with the way that, suffering an early playoff is definitely painful, and that they also want to avoid to become like those teams that has always been cursed in the playoffs. So teams like New York Red Bulls and before this year when NYCFC eventually win MLS Cup, NYCFC in their first couple of years not doing well in the playoffs. So yeah, they definitely want to avoid that trend of suffering multiple playoff exit, because again, this is a team that definitely has the potential to be an MLS Cup contender. And I think the other thing that I will also say about expectation for them is the fact that their expectation is maybe make a deep run in CCL. I mean, when you look at the bracket that they actually have a pretty easy path in terms of their run in the CONCACAF Champions League, so they can get a good run into it. Maybe that could be a thing that Rapids fan could be very, very happy about, but we shall see if that is going to be the case. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and again, I do apologize if the video kind of got a little bit blurry at the end, but let me know in the comments below if you're a Rapids fan. What are you optimistic about this team? What is something that you're a little bit worried? And then of course the expectation, what do you think this team needs to do to meet the expectation for this season, and whether they can exceed their expectation like they did last season. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.